It's quite a long time that I'm on this path, and I would like to know, my difficulty is when I have, it happens in my life to have a very strong emotion, like deep suffering or anger. And when I'm in that state, that strong feelings, it's very physical sometimes, especially in suffering. Sometimes during the night, I wake up with this, it's like having a stone on my chest. And, or sometimes when I'm feeling like anger and I'm dealing with my children and I can't stop behaving with the anger, even though I know it's not right. So in that moment, I don't know really what to do, because it's like being overwhelming by feelings, and it seems that nothing can help me, even thinking, okay, I'm the awareness, but it doesn't help, and I don't know, I'm just, sometimes I suffer a lot for this.
Well, there are two possible approaches. One is the Vedantic approach, where we separate ourselves or distance ourselves from the emotion and know ourselves as the one to whom the emotion appears, or the one that is aware of the emotion. We are the witness of it, but if that doesn't work for you, then the Tantric approach is the second approach, where we don't separate ourselves from the experience, but we actually go more deeply into the experience, or more accurately, we bring the experience close to ourselves. So even the fact that you can call it anger means that to a degree you have already separated yourself from it. So, in other words, in order to be able to name an emotion as anger, or envy, or sorrow, or fear, we have to have, at least to some extent, have separated ourselves from it. Even to label the emotion as unpleasant or negative, we have to stand apart from it and view it. In exactly the same way that your eyes, your physical eyes, can only see something that is at a distance from them. In order to be able to see something physically, this is just a relative example. In order to be able to see something physical and say, that is a chair, or that is a flower, or that is a tree, we have to separate ourselves from that object. You imagine bringing that object closer and closer and closer till there is no distance between the object and your eyes. You would not be able to name that object. It's the same with an emotion. To be able to say, I have this unpleasant emotion of anger, you have already taken yourself apart from it. You are viewing it and therefore naming it from a distance. So the Vedantic approach is to increase that distance and therefore reduce its power over you. The Tantric approach is to decrease the distance, to bring it closer and closer and closer. And just as an object, a physical object that we bring closer and closer to our eyes loses its defining form, its objectness, so an emotion, as it is brought closer and closer, loses first of all, it loses its name. We no longer know whether it's anger or fear or jealousy. And in time, it loses its negative charge. If you invite the feeling so close that you cannot separate yourself from it in order to know what it is, right there at the very heart of the emotion, you will find the peace that you are looking for. The anger can only stand if you keep it at a distance from yourself. The example that I sometimes use is the apologies to those of you that know this example, the example of two boxers who, when they are a meter away from each other, they are dangerous. Yeah, when they are 10 meters away from each other, they are not dangerous. That's the Vedantic approach. The witness of experience at a distance, then the emotion no longer has any power over you. When the two boxers are 10 meters apart in their respective corners, they are not a danger to one another. That's the witness, that emotion is at a sufficient distance to have lost its power over you. When the boxers are a meter away from each other, then they are dangerous. They can hurt each other. But what do they do when they want a respite from the danger, apart from going back to their corners? Have you noticed, if those of you that watch boxing, what they hug? They come together. Have you noticed that? I once made a mistake. I learnt my lesson at a retreat on Buckland Hall. I was giving this analogy actually for the first time. It occurred to me, and I said something like, "I'm sure there are nobody here watches boxing on television," and then gave the analogy. Can you believe it? It turned out there were 3 professional boxers in the audience. So, but yes, they hug. It's called a clinch. They come towards each other. They bring each other close, because when they are close, the danger is neutral. They can't hurt each other. So when they are in the break between rounds, when they're in their corners, 10 meters apart, that's the Vedantic approach, the witness of experience. I put my anger over there, but I am over here. It can't hurt me. It can't touch me. It loses its charge. Then the normal approach, the everyday life approach that you describe, is when it's just far enough away from us for us to be able to call it anger and to feel its negativity. And the Tantric approach is to bring it close, bring it so close that it loses first its name and then its negative charge. And the way you could do that would be and this would be difficult to do in the heat of a row with your children. I suggest the Vedantic approach when you're shouting at your children or arguing with your children, but when you're, for instance, in bed at night, you feel this stone on your chest. That is not the time to separate yourself from it. That is the time because all your life you have been trying to push this unpleasant stone away, and it hasn't worked. So it's calling for some attention. Do the opposite now. Bring it close in the manner that we did this morning when we, at the part of the meditation this morning, when I said, allow this experience of the body to come to your attention, something like that. And so you felt the sensations, and then you so you do that. Your eyes are closed. It's the middle of the night, and you feel this knot in your chest or this stone on your heart. And instead of doing the normal thing, which is to push it away, to try and get rid of it, you do the opposite. You say to it, all my life, I have been running away from you, but I've never really discovered who or what you are. You say to it, okay, I want I'm going to stop projecting you, stop resisting you. I'm going to make friends with you. You're welcome. Come closer. And you let it come closer. And you'll find that as it comes closer, it loses its negativity until when it's totally one with you, when you can't separate yourself from it, you won't be able to give it a name. You'll feel the intensity of it. I'm not suggesting that it'll just go into a blank. There'll still be this intensity, but without separating yourself from it and naming it, not only will you not be able to call it anger, you won't even know whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. It'll just be the intensity of the experience. And right there, right at the heart of the experience, is the resolution that you are looking for. So try that in the night. Just say befriend this stone. Say you're welcome. Come in. In fact, come closer. You can come right in. And you could ask yourself a question, says, for instance, without reference to memory or thoughts, what do I know about this experience? If I don't refer to the past, if I don't refer to the person or the situation that apparently triggered this emotion, if I just refer to the feeling, which is a knot in your heart, what do I know if I was to write an essay about this experience? Just based on my current experience, not based on my memory of it, not based on my imagination, just the raw experience. I'm a newborn infant. This is the first experience I have ever had. What do I know about it? See if you can write a single word about it, other than the fact that it has a certain intensity. Ask yourself, is it pleasant or unpleasant? You won't be able to tell. Ask yourself, is this anger or is this joy? You won't be able to tell. Or if you can tell, it's because you have separated yourself from it and you're looking at it from a distance. But as I say, when you're in the heat of a conflict with your children, this what I've just suggested, takes time and privacy and space. And so when you're in the middle of a conflict with your children, then the Vedantic approach is probably the most practical approach. And postpone the Tantric approach till later that night.
Thank you. Thank you very much.